Marley from the Energy Boutique with your energy forecast for Saturday, May 14th. So the moon is moving out of Libran energy and moving into Scorpio energy, putting us smack dab in the full moon eclipse window. Of course, the full moon total lunar eclipse in Scorpio will be taking place very late in the day for some people in the world, Sunday, and for many of us in the world, early Monday morning. Regardless, we are in the eclipse portal. We have been since the new moon solar eclipse in Taurus. And of course, with the retrograde piled onto that, everything is pretty wonky, pretty chaotic, pretty crazy. We are definitely feeling the extremes, which is the triggers that we need to be triggered and activated in order for us to realize where the healing is needed the most. Now, moving into the moon in Scorpio, let's just say on a normal cycle, without the full moon energy, without the eclipse energy, most people struggle when the moon is in Scorpio. Why? Well, it is a water sign, which means we're highly emotional. Many people will go to great lengths to avoid their emotions. The Scorpio energy is kind of intense, very passionate. We do dabble in the dark side of life in order for us to really recognize where the pain in our lives has been divinely scripted to push us into our power, where it is that we have to do a deep dive in our psyche, in our heart space to get to the underlying primary root cause of some of the situations that we are currently experiencing that are very uncomfortable and unpleasant. And, you know, the moon in Scorpio is a very transformative time. It's ruled over by Pluto, the great transformer, and Mars, the god of war. So, you know, we're talking about a very pivotal time in the lunar cycle every single time the moon shifts into Scorpio. But because we are in a full moon energy, intensifying, illuminating, bringing forth new information, new emotions, we are typically speaking that bubbly volcano getting ready to erupt, getting ready to pop off. And of course, because this is eclipse energy, a total lunar eclipse, we are at the mercy of the divine script the universe is playing out in order to get us on the right track, to get us away, detached from some of the elements that are really holding us back and preventing our evolvement, our progress, our growth. And so we can expect over this weekend, we can expect to feel that intense energy, to kind of see where the chaos is leading us into clarity, to see where the pain has been designed to push us into our power. And of course, be prepared for the emotional transformation, the energetic transformation that is taking place on all levels, mind, body, and soul. So we do have the moon moving out of Libra, moving into Scorpio. It'll be locking into Scorpio around 6:35 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So we do get a couple of aspects while the moon is still in Libra before we do that deep dive into that Scorpio energy. So there are 11 different aspects here today. 9 of them involve the moon. The moon, while still in Libran energy, before even going void, of course, is going to be bumping into Mars and bumping into Mercury within about 30 minutes of one another. So we have the moon in Libra that is constantly looking to find peace and love and balance and harmony within our heart space, within our head space, to get on the same page, especially where our relationships are concerned, bumping into Mars, who is ruling over our new passions, our new desires, who is kind of stunted in the progress and the growth, the improvement that we're able to do here in our physical realms. Because of course, Mars is in Pisces energy, which means that we are kind of in our inner realms. We are definitely trying to concoct a dream, trying to hold on to a vision, trying to be motivated and inspired and divinely instructed in order to get in alignment with what it is that we actually want to do with ourselves. Now, keep in mind, Piscean energy likes to bring things to an end, likes to bring things to a close. And Mars is preparing to move into its place of power in Aries on the 24th. So we do have a lot of let's call it inner wars, inner battles that need to be fought, that need to be put to death, so to speak, before we can start fresh. This is a harmonious aspect, though, between the moon and Mars. So this is definitely showing us that we are making a huge amount of progress in our thoughts, in our emotion, in our dreamscape, in finding a compromise, cooperating within our inner realms between our heart and our head, and getting a grip on what it is that we actually need to do in our physical realms to start mirroring back the inner transformation, the inner change that many of us are currently going through. Bumping into Mercury just 30 minutes later means that we are gaining a lot more perspective. Now, I know that's a hard thing to even kind of, comprehend at this time because everything is a little bit cray-cray. Mercury, of course, ruler of the mental plane, rules over information, rules over the way that we see things, but is in Gemini, its place of power, which means that we're facing two different choices, two different decisions, two different paths. And of course, Mercury is retrograde, which means that we're kind of focused on cleaning up the aspects, the details, the topics, the themes, the storylines of our current circumstances before we can go ahead and start fresh. But having the moon in Libra bump into Mercury in Gemini, they're both air signs, which means that we're making a little bit of progress in our mental plane, getting a grip, grasping new thoughts, new ideas, what needs to be done. And this is a positive energy, which means we are gaining a little bit of clarity. At 4:08 a.m., this is the last aspect that the moon in Libra is going to make before going void, of course. Now, the moon in Libra is going to be squaring, entering into that boxing ring with Pluto, the great transformer himself, who is also retrograde in Capricorn. So what can we expect? Well, first of all, a square is a tension point. It's an inner conflict. The moon typically is our emotions, our unconscious self, and tends to be overly attached to the old, to the past. And Pluto right now, who is retrograde in Capricorn, is trying to move us inward to see where it is that we have self-destructive habits, where it is that our self-sabotaging behaviors are constantly blocking our blessings, where it is that we set ourselves up for a win, for a dream, for a goal, for a vision, and then unconsciously, or in some cases consciously, we go ahead and we make a mess of the plans, of the vision, of the dream that we have for ourselves. Now, this particular aspect does like to kind of bring out negative Nancy, does like to bring out the whole mean girl gang in order to talk us down from making the changes, the transformation that we know that we need to make in our heart space, in our head space, first and foremost, before we can go ahead and actually take action in our physical realm. So the moon is now going void, of course. So things get shaky, things get unstable, things get uncertain. We have the moon void from about 4:08 a.m. until 6:35 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So a little bit of a chunk there. Hopefully you're still sleeping while this happens. Might mean for a little bit of an agitated sleep state, but we're in eclipse and retrograde energy anyways. So really, we have a lot to blame here. And then at 7:43 a.m., once the moon has locked into Scorpio, the moon in Scorpio is going to bump into Jupiter. So here's the thing. Jupiter is in Aries energy, very fresh in Aries energy. That's why maybe you've been feeling like we have this jolt, we have this inspiration, we have this urgency to move forward. Jupiter wants us to grow. He wants us to improve. He wants to enlighten us. He wants to show us the possibilities of the future. He's in Aries energy, which means that we are reinventing ourselves. We are tapping into a new level of boldness, of courage, of bravery to go after what it is that we want, to go after what it is that we know that we need. And because new passions and desires are being illuminated for us, Jupiter's lesson is to stay positive, stay optimistic as we kind of face these obstacles, face these challenges head on. Now, the moon in Scorpio bumping into Jupiter in this way is not the nicest aspect. And I will tell you, this is likely going to be a situation, an outside activation, an outside trigger that is outside of our control. What do we get out of this? Well, we get a huge illumination on where it is that things just do not feel good. right? We are moving towards the full moon. The days before a full moon are intense and highlight the extremes in our mind space, in our heart space for a reason, because our whole goal is to transform through the painful aspects that are being brought to our attention. So it is likely that there is going to be a situation that pops off, that's not going to feel good, that is going to trigger us and activate us in a way in order for us to make a choice. We are going to be presented with an opportunity to either revolve and act out of ego, doing the same old, popping off, making things worse, or we're going to be able to act as the observer and see where this is an opportunity for growth, for improvement, for progress, for transformation. And tackling that by responding from our higher selves instead of reacting from our lower egoic selves is going to be what sets us up for a possible explosion, because again, we're volcanoes bubbling up for this explosion, or we can see that the explosion is just around the corner, and therefore maybe we should be preventative, maybe we should prepare, maybe we should get in touch with what is actually going on and see where the universe is currently magnifying our thoughts and our emotions in order for us to be uncomfortable enough for us to actually embrace the change that we all know that we need to make. The moon is going to go ahead and bump into Neptune in the most positive way. And this is a great aspect because many of us have been disconnected from the higher realms of our higher self, of the higher intelligence of the cosmos while we've been in this eclipse portal. The moon in Scorpio, very in touch with intuition, with our higher selves and our lower selves because of the shadow work that is absolutely necessary. But Neptune, who is in Pisces, who rules over our intuition, our higher self, our soul self, our contracts, our dreams, we are definitely getting a glimpse and a vision, especially after this earlier activation popping off, showing us where it is that things are in extreme right now in order for us to decide on how it is that we want to provide ourselves with safety and stability. So the moon bumping into Neptune is likely going to intensify our intuition, and we're going to be able to gain a vision, a sense of knowing that the situations that are currently popping off aren't happening to us, they're happening for us, and they are divinely scripted to set us free. Mercury, though, is going to pop off and bump into Mars. Now, luckily for us, this is a semi-positive aspect. We have to keep in mind that Mercury rules over our mental plane, very much affecting communication and misunderstandings at this particular time, creating a lot of brain fog, brain farts, just not being able to get the words out of our mouth the way that it sounds in our head. And Mars, like I had mentioned earlier, is a little bit passive-aggressive and stuck in the inner dream realm instead of actually being able to take the kind of actions that we know we want to take to improve our situations in our physical realm. Now, let me just say that this is going to be a very good opportunity for us to gain a little bit of clarity on our dreams, on our passions, on our desires, on what it is, the strategy within ourselves that we know we're piecing together right now, so that when the universe gives us that green flag go ahead to actually start, making moves, that we already know what it is that we have to get to work to doing. Mercury bumping into Mars in this way, though, is also going to put us in a position to have really good communication. Even though communication is having a hard time right now, we have been triggered. We have been activated. There's a lot of emotional release that is coming up for us, especially under this full moon eclipse energy. And this particular little aspect between Mercury and Mars definitely puts us in a position to be a little bit more direct, straightforward, forthright, compassionate, empathetic with being able to express ourselves and be open enough to hear what others have to say to us. The moon is going to bump into Mercury shortly after, though, and let me just say this is not the most positive aspect. This is, again, a situation, a trigger, an activation outside of our control that will likely happen in a conversation, a misunderstanding that truly hurts our feelings or exposes a level of, I want to say manipulation, I really do. I don't want to take it that dark, but right now, like, we're manipulating our own perspectives to try and romanticize situations that we know we've outgrown just because we're afraid of taking the steps that we know we have to take in order to actually see the situation transform in our physical realm. So we're a little bit like, manipulating ourselves, but also especially feeding off of this earlier aspect where we do take the opportunity to gain a little bit of clarity and express ourselves a little bit more bravely and confidently. I feel like we're going to receive a lot of backlash from that. And I just want to give you a situation and scenario. Relationships are taking a hard hit right now because of this Taurus and Scorpio axis that we're on with the true nodes of the moon, with the eclipse energy. And because many of us are finally standing up for ourselves and advocating for ourselves and trying to put our own wants, needs, and desires on the front burner instead of the back burner that never, ever seems to get enough attention, when we find ourselves doing what is right for us, we always see very clearly the people that do not want the best for ourselves, which means that it is becoming very clear, especially when we take the opportunity to express ourselves from a raw and vulnerable place, the pushback. Okay, I want you to pay attention to the pushback. If someone truly loves you and respects you and is around and in your life for the right reasons, even if your truth hurts them, they will love and support you. They will be proud of you for standing up for yourself. They will honor you. They will meet you wherever it is that you need to be met in order for you to do what is right for you. Those that show you conflict and opposition are not in your life for the right reasons. Now, that's not to just say that, if somebody says something that you don't like, that you cut them off and you dismiss them. That's not what we're talking about here. What we're talking about is seeing people, seeing their true colors, and not trying to paint them in a way that makes you feel better about what kind of colors their authentic selves actually are. So when you say something that you need help, you need understanding, or you're just flat out just expressing yourself and you gain pushback, that is those people's attempt to still have an advantage over you, to try and push your boundaries and to try and show you that they're not going to stick around because they no longer benefit from your weakness. Okay. And you have to be very aware of it. And you have to be very, very real with yourself to not want to pick up that paintbrush and color over the colors that they have painted themselves with in a different palette just because it's more pleasing to the eye. So this is a situation that I see is going to fester up, and we're going to see a different layer of manipulation, either coming within ourselves, trying to manipulate the situation so that we feel better about ourselves, or seeing it come from other people trying to manipulate us to stand down, to not force our boundaries, to not do what is right for us. The way that you perceive this, the choice is yours. The moon goes ahead and bumps into Jupiter. This is a positive aspect. Earlier, we had a negative aspect. This is going to be a positive aspect. So what I'm seeing here is that the moon in Scorpio that is doing a deep dive in the psyche, doing a deep dive in the emotions, dissecting and being a detective and analyzing our own inner realms and the energy that other people are bringing at us. What I see happening is that whatever situation popped off earlier in the day, we are recognizing the opportunity for growth, for improvement here. We are recognizing the obstacles, the challenges that we are being faced with, and we are being given an opportunity to rise above that. Jupiter is in Aries. Aries is ruled over by the god of war. We are not really concerned with the past. We are not really concerned about bumping into a wall and then sitting and crying about it. We are going to say, okay, I feel some resistance here. This is just more opportunity for me to boss up and for me to slay through these challenges, through these obstacles in order for me to grow. In order for me to land on the other side of these obstacles and challenges, that opens up the realm of possibilities on what I can have for myself, right? This is a reinvention, a rebranding of self. And now is the time not to sit around and cry about it. Now is the time to do things in spite of the opposition, the conflict that we may be, experiencing when we try to put ourselves first and truly express ourselves. Mars is going to sextile the true node. So Mars, again, is the god of war, ruling over our physical energy, our passion, our desires, our anger, if need be. But of course, he is stunted. He's in Piscean waters, trying to kind of get a vision, get a dream, be inspired, get motivated. At the same time, recognize where the inner spiritual warrior needs to come out to play, to cut the cords with certain cycles, topics, themes, relationships that are preventing us from actually moving forward, feeling good about ourselves, and landing us in the direction that we need to be in order to bring some of these dreams and visions to fruition, to real life, to ground. And the true node, of course, is our destiny point, trying to get us on the right track. And this whole, eclipse energy that we're in is very much us recognizing what it is that we're overly attached to, preventing us from actually growing, detaching from that. Hopefully you detach by your own free will and choice and not wait until the universe strips you of that particular aspect, to clear up the space, to create a space for new elements to be built, created, and birthed. So we are definitely, this is why we're in an intense, relationship situation as well, is because many of us are holding on to old relationships for dear life when we know we're not even aligned with the energy of the person. We don't have the same goals. We don't have the same vision. We know damn well that they are blocking us from putting ourselves first, for doing what is right for us launching into a new path of passion and desire. But yet we are holding on for dear life. So Mars sextiling the true node in this way is a glimmer. It's a vision. It's an inspiration. It is a urgent catalyst for us to hold on to the vision, to the dream, to what makes us feel good, to have the strength for that inner warrior within every single one of us to stay firm in this present spot and sure as hell not turn to run back to anything that we have fought our way to move away from. Now, standing in the same spot is a lot better than going backwards, and standing in the same spot is essential in order to actually move forward. What we don't want to do is go backwards. We're in a retrograde. We don't want to go backwards, okay? We want to clear up the situations from the past so that we have a space to move forward, to build new elements in our lives. The last thing you want to do is go back. So the moon in Scorpio is going to bump into Mars, which isn't the nicest aspect, especially seeing as Mars is the co-ruler of Scorpio. So there's always a little bit more intense opposition, conflict when you're going head to head with your own ruler. And, the moon in Scorpio is a lot of water. Mars in Pisces is a lot of water. This is cleansing. This is transformative. But you have to feel uncomfortable in order for a transformation to take place. Nobody ever makes major moves when they are feeling safe and secure and comfortable in their own zone of comfortability. It is only when we get to a certain point of not being able to take it anymore, a certain point of suffering, a certain point of being in a funk, that true transformation happens. And so, the moon and Mars definitely could be kind of unearthing some anger issues. Pay attention to anger. Anger as an emotion is an indicator on where it is that you have not been honoring yourself, right? Many times we look at it and we say, oh, well, this person is just angering me. Well, are they really angering you? Or is it because of your weak ass boundaries that people treat you the way that they treat you? And then you have the audacity to blame it on other people's reactions or energy towards you, when realistically you have failed yourself. That's what we have to use anger for, is recognizing, where we haven't honored ourselves by enforcing the right kind of boundaries in our life, so that we don't have people that pop off and treat us the way that they're treating us. So you really have to understand that the Scorpio energy, especially this full moon that we're building towards, is about unearthing the darker parts within us, those shadow parts within us, using anger and guilt and shame and embarrassment and all of those low vibrational frequency energies in order to show us where it is that we need to grow, where it is we need to improve, where it is that we need to take responsibility for the part that we have played in teaching people how they can treat us. And we're going to wrap the day up with the moon bumping into Neptune in not the nicest way. This is going to be emotionally overwhelming. The shadow part to Neptune and Pisces energy is that we're delusional, that we're escape artists, that we're so overwhelmed that we look to drugs and alcohol and other means to numb. This is a lot of energy. I'm not lying. This is not easy, okay? But you always have a choice on whether or not you're going to set up camp in the negative vibes or whether or not you're going to use the negative vibes as a compass on what it is that you actually need to gain perspective on what needs to change, what needs to transform. Now, this is a heavy energy. This is going to feel very intense, especially in your heart chakra. You might have pains in your chest. You might feel like you're not able to take a deep breath. This is because there's a lot of water, right? You're literally, you feel the intensity, the water against your chest, the water, the emotions being triggered and activated in you. A full moon is about release. So for God's sake, if you feel like crying, even if you don't know why you're crying, let the tears flow. It's an energy release. Get that energy out. Emotions are energy in motion. We need to give them movement. The minute you start trapping your emotions in you is the minute that you're inviting dis-ease in your body, because that emotion will get trapped in your physical form and it will scream at you in the most unpleasant kinds of ways until you give that emotion the energy and the attention it deserves.